Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, an HOA president builds an electric fence through my private farmland. He claims half my property belongs to him and I show him why you should never mess with a farmer. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. And the first one starts like this. I live in Eastern Europe and at one point the neighborhood I lived in seemed to form a kind of group. I don't really have a good name for it and it's very similar to the HOAs in other countries that I will call it that. The biggest difference of it being that I believe HOAs are sanctioned while things here seem to be a little bit new and wild with no clear lines. I'm not one to jump into new things, especially that look a little off, so I declined joining, which really upset the leader, who I will call HOA president. I noticed that one thing he would do once a home joined was use his power to control pretty much everything about them. He wanted a certain percentage of their income and free access to use their land as he wanted. It all felt very off to me, which is another reason I wanted nothing to do with it, but that did not stop him from constantly asking me to join. I wanted nothing to do with him and told him so several times over about an 8-month period. My wife got sick and she needed to go to the hospital. We don't exactly live near one, so we had to go to the nearest city and I stayed there with my wife. At first I went back to the farm a couple of times, but the time and money to travel did not make any sense. Combining that with my wife getting sicker instead of better made my decision for me. I would have somebody feed my animals and I would just stay at the hospital with my wife as long as the staff let me without making me go to a hotel to sleep and eat something. After about 3 weeks, it was clear to everybody that nothing was helping and she was just slowly dying. At that point, nothing could make me leave her hospital room and I stayed there until the very end. She was only 40 and I was 42, so I figured we had a lot more good years together. That we would grow old on the farm, so I was inconsolable that she had passed away. We never had kids and without her I felt like I was alone and did not have anybody. I know that this part of the story seems like a totally different story, but while I was in the city and hospital, the HOA president was doing something to my property. I came home and just wanted to mourn, but instead found that my land had a fence right down the middle of it. I could still access my home, but the area with my animals, my shed, and an area with a small garden and a chair were no longer accessible. I was actually mostly angry about the last thing because it was my wife's favorite spot to sit and read, so the fact that I couldn't get near it got me very upset. To answer why I did not just jump the fence, the answer was that it was an electric fence and if I touched it, I would get shocked. I got into contact with the man I put in charge of my animals to see what the hell happened while I was gone. He was for all intents and purposes in charge and should have stopped this from happening. He told me how the HOA president came and built the electric fence and nothing he was saying or doing was making him stop. That the HOA president claimed he actually owned half of my land and trespassing on it would be illegal and he would get hurt by the fence. I did not want to take my frustration out on him because he was my friend and I tried his best to handle things. Plus, I did tell him not to contact me while I was in the hospital and he obeyed that wish. I went over to the HOA president and started yelling at him instead for stealing half my land and fencing it off so I could not get to any of my things. In my rage with him barely getting to speak, I learned only 2 things that I cared about. The first was that he was feeding the animals, so at least I didn't need to worry about them starving. The second thing was that he claimed the HOA owned that half of the land and he fenced it off to make sure that it was safe until he could transform it into something else. Looking back, I wish that I had just punched him in the face in that moment. I would have gotten in trouble, but it would have been worth it. I chose chaos and that I was gonna get on my land one way or another. I spent hours researching safe ways to get through the electric fence and although I did it, I would not recommend it. It was dangerous and you could easily get hurt. I went right to my wife's chair and sat down until HOA president showed up and saw me. He was furious that I damaged the fence and was on what he considered to be his property. He called the cops on me and wanted me arrested for trespassing despite the fact that it was my property. They asked me if I would leave and I told them no. They had no idea who was telling the truth, but they believed him instead of me and escorted me off the property. I then finally contacted a lawyer and started a lawsuit against him and his dumb organization for stealing my land and keeping me off of it. Without my wife, I really had nothing to lose and everything to gain. I did not care about anything else aside from my farm, and he couldn't do anything to hurt me more than I already was. He did not have anything to show the land was his, while I had records of the farm being bought and where the lines were from that. The only thing he had was claiming that since I was in his HOA, it meant that he owned half of my property. I think normally people would need to argue how they never agreed to join, but for me, that was not actually an issue. Like I said before, it was not actually an HOA, so they didn't have any rights about anything. In fact, him starting this thing just made him look worse and like he was trying to scam people. Because of him putting up the fence denying me access to my tools and animals, which in turn stopped me from earning any money and refusing to give me access, he ended up owing me $230,000. That was not the last thing that happened though. Since his little group was very clearly not legal, he was forced to get rid of this HOA because he had no right to take money from people or claim that he could go on their land. It was seen as kind of like a scam, and the court did not want more people having issues with him. I was glad to have my farm back so I could at least attempt to get back into a normal life. I would have wanted to just give up, but I knew my wife would not have wanted me to do that. She would have wanted me to keep the farm and work hard and at least attempt to be happy with the rest of my life. The lawsuit and fight with the HOA president was actually a nice distraction from all the tragedy in my life, but I still could have gone without it. He does still live in the neighborhood, but since then has been very quiet and not drawn too much attention to himself since people know what a horrible person he is. And here, Ripe Stars, if you still enjoy the HOA stories, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much. And the next one is a petty revenge story. So I was in Los Angeles roaming around the streets shopping when I walked past this shoe store. It was more of a stripper shoe joint with all kinds of heels and boots, and I thought I might check it out. I walked inside and there was nobody in there, totally empty. I found these red boots that I thought were cute, so I asked the store clerk if I could try them on. The clerk was a middle-aged Eastern European woman with a stern look on her face. She was watching a show on her computer and got really upset that I even asked her to try shoes on. Finally, she said okay and went in the back and got me 2 sizes to try on. I tried them on and loved them. Meanwhile, she was huffing and puffing behind me, being super impatient. I told her I was gonna take a walk, think about it, and probably come back and buy them. I did not have US currency, so I was gonna run and get cash. It was cash only. But she was livid. She barked at me, asking why I was wasting her time, grabbed the boots aggressively and screamed, "What do you need to think about?" I got so mad and stormed out of the store. She didn't only lose a customer, she was also in for some petty revenge. So I was traveling with a group of friends and I told them what happened and we made a plan. They all went inside, again the store had no customers, and spent the next hour trying on all the shoes. The guys were trying to squeeze into women's stripper heels and my girlfriends always gave the clerk the wrong shoe size to try on. The clerk was fuming. After an hour, my friends stopped trying everything on and told her, "We'll think about it," and stormed out of the store. And the next one is another petty revenge story. My mom and stepdad came to visit for a few days a few months after I settled in, nicely decorated in my style, all my own furniture. One of the evenings they stayed, I had to work a late shift. They planned to go out for dinner and to the pub and I left them to it. So I came home at 11 p.m. and my mom had moved nearly all of the furniture around and all my books and kitchen stuff were moved to different shelves or cupboards. She even moved my bed in my room, so when I opened the bedroom door, it hit the bed. I was pissed, so I angrily fixed what I could that night before going to bed. I spoke to her about it the next day, explained it's my home and I had it how I liked it, so stop please. I put everything else back, which took hours. She grumbled the whole time that it looked better her way. Their last day I nipped out to the shops to get her some nice bits for lunch, and in the hour I was gone, she had done it again. Moved all my kitchen stuff around to where she liked it, and again I told her off. It's my house, my rules, but she still maintained it was better her way and I should just let her crack on. Fine, I let her do what she wanted and put the stuff back when they left. So, onto my revenge, I went to visit their house 6 months later and did it to her. She went out to work one day and I rearranged every bit of furniture I could by myself, just everything. Swapped the dining room and living room furniture over so you had to walk through the living room and across the hallway to get to the dining room. Also swapped their bedroom and guest room curtains over. The windows were different sizes, so their now bedroom curtains were 2 foot too short. Even the pointless little things like moving the spoons to a different side of the drawer and moved every photo on the walls to a different wall. I also rearranged the fridge. All in all together, it took me around 7 hours. My stepdad was home while I did it and laughed his head off the whole time. He refused to help but understood, so let me crack on. Neither me nor my stepdad said anything when she got home. We just sat watching TV, which was now in what was the dining room, and I asked her how was work. She didn't say a word. She walked around the house taking it all in for 20 minutes. Then came and sat down, looked at me and said, "Point taken." Dad put it back to how it was the next time I visited. We have not spoken of it since. And yeah, Ripe Stars, that is absolutely brilliant revenge. I just hate it when people visit you and they feel the need to move your furniture or move your stuff in general. You know, I'm a person, I really know where all of my stuff is, and if someone messes with that, it really freaks me out. Anyway, the next one is titled Stupid City Rules. This morning I was woken up by the noise of someone digging up my front yard and the yards of the rest of my street. Found out later that the city is putting in fiber optic internet cables, so I guess that is a plus. But well, we never received any notice that this was gonna happen, no letter in the mail, no flyer taped to the door, just nothing. That alone annoys me, but I can move past it. To get away from all the noise and annoyance, I took my wife out on her lunch break. She works from home. We were gone for maybe 45 minutes, and when we got back they had a large machine parked in my driveway, right where my car was, also blocking in my other car. I parked on the street and went to ask when they would move the machine. I wanted to be understanding and let it go if it was only gonna be for a minute, but none of the 20+ workers spoke English. I could not get them to understand my question, but I think they understood that I wanted that machine moved as they moved it a few minutes later. I am fairly annoyed by now, but I tried to let it go until about an hour later I watched as they parked a truck with a trailer in front of my driveway. There was more than enough room on either side of my driveway to park this truck. I feel like they did this in retaliation to my complaint. I needed to go to work in about 45 minutes. I knew I could not talk to the workers since we did not speak the same language. I tried calling the city to see what the company was, but no one answered. So then I called the police non-emergency line to ask what I should do. They sent an officer who spoke Spanish and had them move the truck. The officer is the one who told me it was for fiber optic cables. The workers are now noticeably angry and keep staring at my house and talking. I have no idea about what, but the tone is not a happy one. I don't think I was wrong by calling the cops, but I wanted another opinion. When I did approach the workers before I knew of the language barrier, I tried to be polite and calm. I ended up just calling into work and switching my shift as this ordeal had put me in a foul mood and gave me a headache. So people of Reddit, am I the a-hole here? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think that OP is the a-hole here or not? Comment number 1, not the a-hole, you cannot block people in. That's why they were forced to move. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, you did not have any tools left other than maybe a labored dialogue using Google Translate or something. The workers seem to be a-holes who don't care if they are inconveniencing anyone. And yeah, Ripe Stars, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what to think about this. If the workers really did not understand the native language there, then I feel like maybe they are not the a-holes but instead their boss, because he did not make it clear what's going on. But then again, isn't it also just common decency to not do what the workers did in this story? It feels like it's very obvious to know that this is obviously not right. But anyway, the next one is titled Suing My Daughter-in-Law. Our son and daughter-in-law, 26-year-old, have been together for 2 years and live together. We have always thought she's a very nice girl and she seems to make my son happy, so there's no problem from us. Our son has his own law firm that he is currently trying to get started. We are very proud of him and we are fortunate enough to help him with a startup loan. Daughter-in-law works a retail job that she's very happy with. Some time ago, husband and I were over at their apartment and we decided to order some food. Husband and I wanted to pay, and since daughter-in-law was ordering from her phone, we gave her our card so she could draw the money from our account. We thought it goes without saying that this was to draw an amount once for the lunch. However, daughter-in-law apparently put our card into her Apple Pay and had been using it since. We did not notice for some months, but recently we saw withdrawals we didn't recognize. We had our accountant look into it and he discovered that number 1, daughter-in-law has been using our card on her phone, and that number 2, she has spent around $17,000. We were quite shocked and called her up and asked why the hell she's been using our card. She got very defensive, tries to deny it, and eventually said that she was entitled to it, and why do we care since we have not noticed her use over 4 months. We told her she needed to pay us back immediately or we would report her actions for theft. She apparently does not have the money to pay us back. We have gone to our son and he has offered to pay us back even though he actually cannot afford to. This is not about the money for us, but more about the fact that she has stolen a huge amount of money. While we are comfortable and it took us time to notice, we still recognize the seriousness of stealing $17,000. Our son has completely dismissed her behavior and excused it as her being stressed. She has taken no responsibility, and we are honestly wanting to go forward with the police report to teach her consequences to her actions. Would we be the a-holes for doing this? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. However, I would say if you steal $17,000, then there should be very serious consequences for you. This is not some excusable little mistake or something. This is clearly illegal and theft. Anyway, a comment on Reddit said, not the a-hole, 17k in theft is 17k in theft. Inexcusable behavior on her part, don't sue, just report her to the cops. Comment number 2, I work in law enforcement and if you report this to the police, they will take a report and forward the charges to the DA. Usually then the credit card cancels the debit portion as fraudulent. If you just chose to sue her civilly, you will still be liable for the debt, and even if you get a judgment, she may not pay it. I would not give her any special pass to avoid criminal charges. And the next one is also a malicious compliance story. For reference, I process home loans that come to our company via a mortgage broker. So, customer comes to mortgage broker for a loan, mortgage broker searches for the right home loan and comes to us, the lender. Mortgage broker is our client. We recently had a client that decided to withdraw the loan application as the valuation on the property was not as high as the broker/client wanted it to be, meaning that the customer had to pay more out of their pocket for their new property. As part of this loan application, the customer also submitted a form for a subsidy called First Homeowner Grant (FHOG). This is a government grant that helps people buy their first home and has strict guidelines to who can apply. While not particular to the lender, it is a document that is full of personal information that we are legally obliged to protect under the Privacy Act. When this loan did not proceed, we were sent an email by the customer's new financier, competitor bank, requesting we send the FHOG document over to them so they can lodge for the customer. Our answer was no, we will send it to the broker who supplied it to us or the client only. As per our Privacy Act, we will not supply documents to a third party that is not related to our dealings with the customer. Competitor banks should know this, it is the law, and the banks as well as individuals can face hefty fines. Now, I was the lucky one to get the call from the broker who supplied the document to us initially. She is accusing us of deliberately not sending the document because we were not awarded the loan in the first place. I tell her as above, read Privacy Act. We can mail to client or her. She screams that the other bank needs it today, mailing will take too long, and said, you will have someone walk this document over to competitor bank today. Me, no, I cannot have that happen. Rinse and repeat, privacy. I offer that the document can be collected from our head office by client or broker. Her, client is in another state, not possible. I'll send a person from competitor bank to collect. Me, rinse and repeat in regards to privacy. Her, after more accusations, you know what, I think I will collect it myself. I hear a real sarcastic tone in her voice. I know she planned on sending someone from competitor bank to come to us and just say they were her. Me, oh excellent, I will tell reception that you will collect it. Please ensure you have your ID on you as we will not hand it over unless we know it is you. Her, stunned silence. Me, what time do you anticipate arriving? Just so I can let the reception know. Her, I'm driving from the Gold Coast, so, about 1.5 hours, I guess, because, traffic. Me, excellent, we will see you then. K, thanks, bye. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. Several years ago, I was working logistics and materials coordination on a very large project. We had manufacturing hubs in several Southeast Asian countries and were regularly sending material to and from the far north of Australia and to those places. Because the planners were not the sharpest tools in the shed and because the project director really did not bother listening to planning anyway, we wound up with a lot of stuff in Australia when it should have been in Thailand, for example. This is a bad thing and needs to be fixed yesterday. Side note, it was a bad thing because the project director decided to alter the manufacturing schedule to save a few dollars. Okay, actually a lot of dollars, but it really threw a massive spanner in the works. The decision gets made to do a charter flight on one of the big Antonovs. You know, the kind that costs $1 million to reposition and burn $50,000 per hour in fuel. The costs were accurate back in the day anyway, they are more expensive now. So I start putting together an inventory list of everything that needs to go across. Over the course of several weeks, the email CC list grows to about 50 people who all want to buy in and need their crap sent across urgently. There is also a growing inventory in Thailand that needs to come back. So now we are up to 3 charter flights both there and back again. About $11 million. Chump change. So as I am planning the 4th of the 3 charter flights, the project director is also flipping his crap about how much this is costing. The instruction from higher-ups is to make 100% sure that everything that needs to go on this last charter goes on and that nothing is left behind. Well, I've got everyone on the list on speed dial at this stage, so I send out an alert that I am sending out a materials list spreadsheet for everything that is going on in this final plane. All people are required to review and respond, and that non-response will be taken as endorsement of the list because we are on a strict deadline. Everything gets packed up by the crew in Darwin, plane takes off and we all pat ourselves on the back as the plane leaves at about 11 PM on a Friday night. And the phone is ringing. What the hell? Dave? This is Dave in Thailand. They are a few hours behind Australia, and I don't see Valve XYZ123 on the manifest. Me? That's because it is not on the manifest. Everything was loaded onto the plane according to the spreadsheet I sent out several times over the past week. Let me check. You were copied in and acknowledged receipt of the emails on date and date. Dave, we need that Valve here in Thailand to complete the punch list for PAM 907. Here it is worthwhile to point out that PAM 907 was on the critical path and was utterly necessary for the plan to operate. Delivery on time formed part of all the senior management KPIs and therefore bonus. Me, it is not on the plane. Looking at the records, the Valve is still at site. Dave, that Valve needs to get on the plane. Get a truck to site and drive it to the airport. The site is 700 kilometers, 500 miles from the airport, and it is midnight on Friday night. Me, Dave, the plane left 3 hours ago. We cannot get the Valve on the plane. Dave, that effing Valve needs to get to Thailand by Monday or PAM 907 is not sailing, so just find a way. Click. PAM 907 was coming via a barge and sailed next Friday. There was no way that we could get the Valve to Thailand on a commercial flight by the end of the week and certainly not enough time to install, test and sign off. So I turned to my long-suffering co-worker and miracle worker JC. JC was a Latin American legend who knew logistics inside and out, and if anyone could make the impossible happen, it was him. Me, JC, okay? Me, great job on the charter by the way, but Dave in Thailand says that a Valve did not make it on board. JC, it's not my problem. Plane already in the air. Me, Dave says that the Valve is required for PAM 907. We have to get it there by Monday morning so they can install it, test and get the PAM on the barge. JC is smart cookie. He knows what this means. JC swears in Spanish for about 5 minutes straight. I don't speak the language, but I'm pretty sure he did not repeat himself. JC, call that cowputer crap for brains back and tell him that he needs to get project director's sign-off to turn the plane around. Me, damn, okay. Ring ring, Dave, would. Me, you need to get project director's approval to turn the charter plane around. Dave, what the F? No way. Me, it's not possible to put the Valve on a commercial plane and have it there by Friday, let alone in time to install and test. Dave, I don't want to hear it. Just get that Valve here. I don't care what you have to do. Me, I will need that in writing. Dave, fine. I get the mail in writing and call my boss. JC is still swearing, Boss has the unenviable task of waking up project director and explaining the situation. JC gets to turn the plane around, I get to wake up crew in Darwin to move the valve. Plane lands, valve is loaded, plane leaves, Dave's contract is not renewed. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.